Humans don't understand math too well, and they don't even want to. And they really don't understand exponentiality or what an exponential growth curve looks like. When people think, oh yeah, the AI thing's coming, they think that's in like 15 years or sometime way in the future. They don't understand the next 2 years might be more change than the last 15 years or something. And that could be, will be. The next 12 months can be a lot more dramatic change than the last 12 years and so on. And people aren't good at imagining that because nature doesn't really move that way in most respects. And humans don't know the math, so it's just a little esoteric and fuzzy and seems like that's something that'll maybe happen later. And I think, no, that shit's happening now. That shit's happening right now. Some of you were involved in it. You're gonna have higher levels of unemployment. You're gonna have a lot more push for this universal basic income type shit. What does that mean for tax structures as well? So they're gonna tax the robots or tax your...
If you don't have $1 million yet, you're living a much lesser life than what could be easily available to you with the right guidance. My head coach has freed up a few spots in his calendar to hold one-on-one strategy calls with the highest quality applicants. If you're doing well already and you're looking to accelerate your momentum and do even better, click the link in the description now and apply for your strategy session. More at the end of this video.
The way the Congress runs things, and somebody's gonna giggle like it's a joke, but it'd be as if you or I, you maxed out your credit card, and then you went to the bank and you said, hey, my card's maxed out, I need more credit. Yeah. And what would the bank tell you or me as an individual if that's the way you were thinking? Yeah. Which was the appropriate answer. But for these people, then they play a new shenanigan of and both sides are guilty of this, they just spend the money on different things. Then they play a game of if the Democrats spent a bunch of money recently on nonsense, as they have, and then they say oh we need to raise the spending limits, we need more money, raise the debt ceiling, and then the Republicans say oh hey, you're just going to bankrupt the country if you keep doing this shit, so let's not raise the debt ceiling, let's negotiate a more responsible package. And they're totally irresponsible as well. And then, so they'll argue about some little bullshit and take off 3% or 5% of the spending perhaps. And then they'll go sign off on it last minute because they don't want to play a political game where they're oh, we're going to shut down the government. The best thing that could happen is they could shut down the government. The best thing that could happen is stop the spending and stop creating more crazy laws and rules. It's the best thing that could happen. But that's the political game. Is the propaganda television channels pretend that it'd be a bad thing if they shut down the government. So the Republicans were obstinate to give the Democrats the money they need for social programs, and now grandma doesn't have her insurance or whatever. Grandma doesn't have her food stamps, and they shut down the government. Those evil people. So the best thing they could do is shut down the government. So the best thing we could do is have less government. So, both sides are going to run up the deficit, and either side in an election year, either side would like to have lower interest rates because then you have a higher stock market, and then they say, look, we have a bull market and a booming economy. Well, do you, or do you just have more inflation? So, I think either party they're both very derelict in their duties to be responsible with the future of the country, and I think both parties are in many cases paid by the same corporations and the same foreign interest groups. That it's more like a uniparty, and the divide of Democrat Republican to some extent has become more it's just a theatrics game to confuse the peasantry, but it's which governments. It's the same couple of governments and, the same several, many overlapping companies that pay these people and donate to their campaigns and so on. So, no, I don't think there's going to be any more responsibility. I anticipate having more inflation in the future than we have had in the past. And if you look at, since the Federal Reserve Bank was created in 1913, I believe, the inflation is so steep that the dollar has, it's more than 98% of the purchasing power has been eroded. So to be a millionaire 100 years ago versus a millionaire today, to have the same purchasing power, like a millionaire 100 years ago, you have to have about 50 million today to have the same purchasing power. So when you hear the term millionaire today, it really doesn't mean anything. I like using the example, and look this up if you don't believe me, but you could buy a really nice parking spot in Hong Kong. You could buy a really nice, but not a car, not the car too, but you could buy a really nice parking spot for $1 million. That's what $1 million is. How many cheeseburgers is that with inflation? Is 30,000 cheeseburgers or something. You buy 30,000 cheeseburgers. So you eat a cheeseburger a day for your lifetime. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think as far as more actionable things, I think that they'll probably follow through with their 3 interest rate cuts that they're saying this year. I was saying a year and a half ago, before the election, they'll be lowering the interest rates again. And then, people think that, the Fed's not a political organization, but come on. You sure it's not? So imagine you're in Jerome Powell's place. I'm not even talking about him as a person. Just imagine you're in his situation, okay? So Jerome Powell's the current Federal Reserve Chairman. The president's going to appoint the Federal Reserve Chairman, whoever the president is. Would you like the current president to get reelected so you can keep your job? One of the most prestigious, finance or economics related jobs in the world. Would you like to keep your job for 4 more years, or would you? You're just neutral about it? You're totally, unpolitical and neutral about it, about who becomes the next president and gets to decide if you keep your job or not. All right. So even a person of reasonable integrity who's not going to be a total scumbag is probably going to think to himself of like, I got it pretty good. There's a lot of perks in this job. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if we started easy and a little bit earlier, or doing a couple of things that might help the current administration so I could keep my job. And that presumes it's a political job, so that presumes that you're not a total scumbag, and you still have some sense of like, well, let's not do anything that's bad for the country, but I would like to keep my job. So what are a couple things I could do to move things in that direction? So most of these people will just do anything, Biden will read anything off that teleprompter. He'll try at least. He'll try to read anything on that teleprompter. Whatever they put on that teleprompter is that. Do you think he reviews that ahead of time or something, or has any significant input of like whatever? What did you think? Whatever. There's some 23-year-old kid writing some of those scripts, and he shows up and he's like, the thing. Come on, man. Ice cream. Given the structures in place and the momentum, we're going to have higher levels of inflation in the second half of our lives than we did in the first half of our lives. And I think it's vitally important that if you don't own infrastructure assets, if you don't own things that would be, I don't know what the cost of natural gas or electricity are going to be in 15 years, but I know that we're still going to be burning natural gas and we're still going to want electricity. And I'd like to own the assets that produce or transport the energy. I don't know what the price is going to be, but whatever it is, I'm still going to pay the power bill. And most other people are too. So I'd like to own those infrastructure assets or high quality real estate. I don't know what the price of rents are going to be, but I suspect it's going to remain popular to live indoors rather than like tent cities or some shit. Probably it's going to remain popular to live in, apartment buildings and homes and shit. So I don't want to manage them personally because I'm scared of the government. Because A, I hate managing that shit. And B, I'm scared that the government will do more shit like they did in 2020. Like, oh, you don't have to pay your rent this year. So I don't want to own those things. I don't want to manage those things. But, I like commercial real estate better, high quality commercial real estate, because the government or the judges aren't going to have the same leniency. If you don't pay the rent, your shit's getting kicked out. You can have the property back and release it. They're not going to do that with malls and office buildings the way they do it with private residences.
You looked into data centers at all?
I would think the same rules apply, yeah. And yeah, I think that, data centers or the cooling centers for the, the servers and shit. I know that's the hot thing in real estate at the moment. And yeah. I think, another thing about the macroeconomy is the effects of the artificial intelligence in upcoming years. And I'm particularly concerned that humans don't understand math too well, and they don't even want to. And they really don't understand exponentiality or what an exponential growth curve looks like. So when people think, oh yeah, the AI thing's coming, they think that's in like 15 years or sometime way in the future. They don't understand in the next 2 years might be more change than the last 15 years or something. It's not could be, will be. Like the next 12 months can be a lot more dramatic change than the last 12 years, and so on. And people aren't good at imagining that because nature doesn't really move that way in most respects. And humans don't know the math, so it's just a little esoteric and fuzzy, and seems like that's something that'll maybe happen later. And I think, no, that shit's happening now. That shit's happening right now. Some of you were involved in it. So, you're going to have higher levels of unemployment. You're going to have a lot more push for this universal basic income type shit, so more welfare. And what does that mean for tax structures as well? So they're going to tax the robots or tax your, but yeah. And then, something that's laughable is, at a time where employment's becoming less and less necessary, there's less demand to hire employees, is what I mean to say. At a time where there's less demand to hire employees, and a lot of people, even in tech, a lot of tech people are getting laid off. That some of them seem pretty smart to me, and they're still getting laid off. At a time when that's happening, then you have the politicians saying higher minimum wage, higher this, more benefits, 4-day work week. Like, humans are going to have a hard time keeping a job at all unless you're pretty damn competent at what you do. And when you start saying $20 minimum wage for fast food workers in California, it's like, all right, you just fired all of them because you fired 85% of them that are going to be replaced with a kiosk and a robot. Is it that hard to cook fries? You can't automate a system to cook fries? Yeah, no problem. No problem. I went to a Shake Shack a couple months ago, 6 weeks ago maybe. I went to a Shake Shack restaurant, and the woman at the cash register, she couldn't even be bothered to take my order. She said, over there. And there's like 3 kiosks where, you use the touch screen thing. These things have been in Australia for forever. They're in Europe. They're going to be all over the States soon. They're around here and there in the States, but you go to McDonald's in Australia, they're all over. In Europe, they're all over, in many places. Not just London or something, but even more obscure places. And the shocking one to me is after you go through you click this and that and what you want on your burger, fries, can I have fries? And say, no, we're done with fries for the day. Imagine you go to a fast food restaurant and say, it was like they close at 10, maybe it was 9:20 p.m. They're still open for 40 minutes. And they just don't the humans don't feel like going to get the fries, getting some more fries out of a freezer somewhere or something. Yeah. And then when you get past all of that shit, then on the last screen is it's like a gratuity, like a suggested gratuity for using the kiosk. True. Which of course, then you have to select custom, 0. And then they give you a dirty look because they did nothing for you. They wouldn't get they wouldn't get the fries out of the freezer. You had to place your own order. You can't even get what you want. And then they give you a dirty look because you didn't give them a tip for that on the kiosk. Like, wow.
At that point, you did more work than they did, so they should.
I did.
You kind of
Yeah, can I get a 20% discount, or at least can I buy some fries at regular price?
Yeah.
Can I get the fries I wanted at full price, please? Would you mind just walking back there to the freezer and putting some in the fryer for me? That'd be thoughtful. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things like that are changing in the economy that the common person doesn't seem to be aware of to me. I don't see that they're aware. And I think the exponentiality thing is a hell of a thing. They don't understand what that means. They don't understand what that looks like. And then they're going to pretend to be, well, they are going to be shocked when they see the impacts of that, and how rapidly that can happen and be rolled out over the next few years. So I think it's having differentiated skills and that raise your value, relationship building, having hard negotiations with yourself. If you don't want to get real focused and do that shit, there might be a time in 10 years or less where you don't have the opportunity to really do that shit anymore. That it's kind of too late. Like for the first time in human history, kind of too late. And I don't like to talk that doomsday type shit so much, but just look at what's happening. Do you have a different take on this substantially, or what do you think about it? Is it crazy for me on that part? Does anybody think it's crazy? Or make a good counter argument. I'd love there to be a good counter argument because I'll sleep better at night if I could believe it. But I don't want to believe these things, but I think, in 10 years or less, if you didn't already, create some value, own some infrastructure, own a piece of the systems that are going to make the real wealth going forward, how the would you build that then? How would you start building it then? I don't see the path of how we would do that. It'd be hard.
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on the right metrics and leave mediocrity far behind in your past. Click that link right now in the description below and apply for your call immediately. Do it now.